All set.
Okay, then I will then share my screen. Hang on just a second. I need to make it the right size. And we'll go here and share the screen. All right, so ready to rock and roll and talk about Oscar the implementation planning for larger scale Oscar online course quality initiatives. So welcome everyone. If that's what you're here to learn more about, then you are lucky because you're in the right place. And I'm going to pop a couple of links in the chat, and so that to start right from the beginning, to let you know that everything that I'm going to show you are on those two links. There's a folder of materials, and then there's the specific link to the implementation plan that I'm going to show you. And so this is the folder. There's a bunch of stuff in this folder. This is the link to that document that has all the links on it. So in that folder, you'll find that document as well. And then there's also the link to the actual template, which is what I'm going to give you an overview of today. This is the implementation plan template. And I want to make sure this webinar assumes that you are familiar with Oscar. It assumes that you're familiar with doing online course reviews. It assumes that you have some experience doing some kind of online course quality activities in your department, maybe at the program level or maybe at the institutional level. This workshop is intended to give you an overview of this implementation plan that you might be able to adapt and adopt to help you plan some larger scale online course quality initiative. And so if there's lots of different approaches to some larger scale online quality activities and initiatives. This is intended to provide you with a rough framework for whatever that focus might be for your initiative. And so, for example, if you were doing an initiative to improve the accessibility of courses, or you wanted to improve the diversity, equity, and inclusion of courses, you wanted to enhance engagement and interaction of courses, you wanted to do straight up course quality just at a basic general level. It's always best to have a map so that you can plan out all of the different steps that you need to take in order to get to where you're trying to go. This template is really intended to be able to be adapted and customized to whatever it is that you would like to do in terms of your course quality initiative, or your initiative that you're using, either Oscar or some other rubric. Any rubric is better than no rubric. And this one is assuming Oscar because here in SUNY, that is our online course quality tool. But it can easily be adapted to whatever course quality rubric or set of standards you might have for online course quality. So I'm not going to teach you how to use Oscar or do course reviews in this session. I'm not even going to show you Oscar or any of the tools. What I'm going to go through with you is this implementation plan. And we have other sessions that do those things, and we can let you know, as we did with this one, periodically when we do the varied sessions that we do. So let me just get right into it. Like I said, this is the page that has all the links. This is the folder that has all of the materials for like a larger, fuller workshop on this. If you haven't yet seen the Oscar YouTube video, the link to the video is in that page of links, and I'd invite you to take a look at that new video, which is for the new version of Oscar that includes regular and substantive interaction, which is that new Department of Education implementation regulation that requires that online education have regular and substantive interaction included in it. So that's the new version of OSCQR. This is the page of links. This is the folder with all the links, and this is the actual template. So the way that this template is set up is that anything that's in italic, you can customize. So if you're using some other rubric, you would replace that with whatever that is. Obviously, you'd put your own institution in it, what version of the implementation plan you're working on, what's the month, day, and year. And then there's a table of contents, and you'll see this really is a framework of prompts and guides to help you plan out your initiative, all the way down to appendices and signatures, and it's all got a table of contents, and it's got page numbers. So really you come into this document and make a copy of it. So if you want to do that right now, go to File, Make a Copy, and you have to be logged into Google and have a Google account, and it'll make a copy of the template in your own Google Drive, and then it's yours. It's not connected. I don't have access. It becomes your copy of the document that you can then customize and modify and adapt in whatever way is going to best suit your goals for this initiative, for this activity. So the way that it's organized, as I mentioned, is whatever's in italic is like a prompt, or intended for you to replace it with something of your own. So for example, here in the introductory section of any implementation plan, you're going to need an overview and kind of context, typically the history of that led up to the need for the initiative. You also are typically going to have a group of people that you're collaborating with. This is intended for some larger scale quality initiatives. If you're an individual and doing it on a smaller scale, you can adapt it for that. But you just need to take that into account. Who are you working with in order to document and implement this plan? So then typically there's some acknowledgements, and this is boilerplate since you're adapting it from us, and this is an openly licensed tool. This would basically stay here in the acknowledgements, kind of documenting where you got it and some details about the actual plan. Then again, a part of any implementation plan, you're going to want to talk about the need and the purpose. Why is the initiative needed? And so you would replace this text here with a paragraph or two to add that need, the context for the need. You're then going to want to think about communications and how you're going to present and engage and collect feedback from your stakeholders, and how you're going to communicate out what the purpose of the activity is of this particular initiative, and how you're going to publicize it. So you're going to want to use some statements to help you communicate that out. And here's some boilerplate that you can adapt for your needs for that. And it's kind of in a format to model, something along the lines of what you might be distributing to your varied stakeholders. You want to document what the goals are of your activity. Again, what's the focus, right? Is it accessibility? Is it RSI? Is it engagement? Do you want to add a video, for example, to every online course that you are, in your program, in your department, at your institution, to enhance social presence, perhaps? Are you just dealing with quality of existing online courses that have been out there for some time, or is this just continuous improvement? You want to consider the goals for your new faculty as compared to the goals for experienced faculty. They have different needs, and there may be different goals and different sort of focuses. So you want to think that through. What is the target? And if it's narrower, then make sure that that's your focus. And if it's broader, make sure you're accounting for everything. And then how are you going to adopt and adapt OSCQR? Are you going to make modifications to the standards? Are you going to add standards? Are you going to create different rubrics for different disciplines or programs? And you want to explain that here as part of this initiative. You might here in this area also explain why you're adopting OSCQR or whatever the tool is that you are going to be using for this activity. I have a process illustration that I wanted to show you. This is the OSCQR process illustration, which just documents, the use of OSCQR as part of an overall online course quality review and refresh effort. So, the course is designed, it's reviewed, it's delivered, it's then reviewed again, and it's an iterative process. And it starts with new online course development and then is sort of evolves to address specific things for the experienced faculty. Here's a link to the OSCQR website if you're not familiar with it. Again, all the links are on that page here. But it's oscqr.suny.edu if you want to take a look at sort of the supporting materials and documentation that go along with the OSCQR rubrics. OSCQR really is a process, a set of tools that includes a PDF. It includes some online interactive tools. One for the rubric and one is the dashboard that helps you manage larger scale online quality initiatives. And you can learn all about all of those things here on this website. And then also you get to actually see the standards, an explanation of the standard. There's a little mini learning video for each standard, and they're all in this format. There's citations, there's information, and then there's ideas about how to actually address that particular standard or enhance your course with that standard. Perhaps, if we have them, additional videos and additional resources that go with each standard. So they all follow this basic format. All right, so where are we then? So we've gotten through why you're adopting it, the process. The next step in the plan is to think about what approvals you're going to need and more detail about your communications. So I have in that folder an example communication document that you can adapt. It's like a template. This is based on something we sent out during one of our initiatives. And this is basically telling the person, or asking them if they want their course reviewed. And it's details about that. And then there is one, there's a communication about the peer reviewers that are going to assist in the effort. And then once they've agreed to do that, there's a communication. So these are just there for you to take a look at. It might not completely be relevant to what you're trying to do, but it's an example of our communications that we had for the person being reviewed and the people who were going to be doing the reviewers. And you're welcome to use any of these examples and adapt them to your own use cases. So the next thing is to think about your processes for adopting and adapting OSCQR, or again, whatever tool you're using. And that would mean really knowing who your stakeholders are. And so here's a little worksheet that you could do to kind of prepare for some of the things that are going to go into your implementation plan. So you need a list of who your stakeholders are. and you might want to do this in collaboration with your distance learning committee or whoever is helping you with your implementation plan to make sure that you're not leaving anyone out. Who are your stakeholders? And then what model of course review is going to work best for the activity that you're planning. And there's lots of different models of quality, online course quality initiatives, right? You can do it informally with the instructor doing a self-assessment, for example. You could do it more formally where the instructional designer reviews a course before the course goes live. You can do a peer review process sort of on a cyclical basis throughout all the courses in the institution or department or program. You can also do a more multidisciplinary team approach. So you need to think about what is your model and kind of draft that out. How's it going to work? So this is just a brainstorming document that you can do with you and your team to help you. You can use this information to inform the implementation plan. Your timeline is another piece that you need to know and understand. And I always like to start at the end. When do I want to actually have this done by? And then work backwards from that. So you need to think about whether or not what you're planning is going to be realistic. And this is going to help you to organize it in a way based on dates so that you can see, in fact, what are the dependencies, what are the requirements, and is it going to work within your envisioned time frame? And then last but not least, what are some of the policies or institutional or organizational structures or procedures that you need to take into account? And this will have impact on your ability to implement the plan. So you really need to document that thoroughly. And back in the folder, you have access to all of these documents, but there is a document that I've put in there that is an example document of that brainstorming activity that you can then refer to after you've done it for yourself. You can come back to the example document and take a look at it and see if you've missed anything. Now, this is filled out by all the different people over the last 2 years that I have done this workshop with as a workshop. This is just an overview, and all of their input to the answers to these questions. So that might help you to see if you've missed anything. All right, so let's see, where are we? This is the stakeholders. You're going to want to think through what are some of the professional development activities that you want to make sure are in place so that your staff are prepared to implement this plan. And so as an example, I have posted here the OLC Instructional Designer Certificate Program, and it's a really great program that you might want to consider to prepare your instructional design staff to take on this kind of activity. So you want to have a course review model for your new and existing online courses. And we talked about this a little bit already during, in the implementation planning stage. This is where, in the brainstorming stage, this is where your model is going to come into play. So what is the model that you have selected for this particular initiative? And again, these are just examples. There's all different kinds of models or combinations of these models. So basically what you want to do is, remove this text and document the course review model that you will be working with for this implementation plan. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you here at this stage is one of our approaches is it has been to create a volunteer course reviewer network here at SUNY. And so people volunteer, they fill out a form, And then in that form, they document different aspects of their availability, their experience, any certifications that they may have, any timeframes, and so forth. And then they get added to our reviewer network. And here I'm looking at Maureen, and this is her main discipline. She would be willing to review any course. Her main timeframes are listed, and here's her experience, and she's a certified OSCQR reviewer. So this is a self-service way that we have curated a list of people who say that they would be willing to do some course reviews for others, and the details about how to get a hold of them, including her institution and her contact information. So this is a model that, just to let you know, it's something that we have done, and it's something that you could potentially adapt to see if it would work for you. This can help you with scale. Again, the intention of this implementation plan is to do some larger scale work. It might be that you're not doing something on a very large scale, but if it could help you to leverage your existing faculty to be able to scale out, to do the numbers of course reviews that you're thinking about doing, that might be one option. So you want to think about your new course development, as I mentioned, and new course development would include what professional development activities you have for your faculty, your new online faculty. So that you might want to, once your staff is trained, they could, and they do a train the trainer activity where they get trained to be trainers, then they can then train your faculty. And you would, I would recommend that you consider, rather than waiting until the course is developed and ready to be delivered, I would recommend that you introduce them to the rubric while they're designing the course, so that it's not a surprise. Those standards are not a surprise. And if everyone is aware and familiar and doing, following the standards and the practices, that review at the end, when the course is ready to be delivered, will not be difficult. The course will be already designed according to the standards. Again, the OLC Instructional Designer Certificate Program has one of the courses that is about OSCQR, and so you can come out of that particular certification with an OSCQR reviewer badge. So you might want to think about, incorporating this into your professional development plan for your staff. All right, so again, you need to document how this is going to work. What's the process for reviewing online courses? Who conducts it? What authority do they have? When does the review take place? Who makes the changes? And so then there's some examples there that I documented, so you can take a look and see how that matches up with your context. So then, just like you do for new course development, you have to think about your existing courses or courses that have been around for some time, with experienced faculty, and think that through. If this is part of the initiative, then you want to think about what are the agreements that you have, what are the expectations, and how does that play into your desire to have some sort of a quality initiative around experienced courses. I have put in the folder an example of 3 different types of implementations that we conducted in the past with some of our SUNY campuses. So there's one from Binghamton, and Binghamton is a university, one of our universities. And so that's going to be very different than the implementation we have at Monroe Community College, for example. And so this PowerPoint really just documents the process at these different types of institutions. I'm trying to see where the next one is. There's another one in here somewhere. There's 3 of them. Anyway, it's in here somewhere. I must have blown by it. But anyway, this whole PowerPoint presentation is in that folder, and you can take a look at the process that each of these different types of institutions went through in order to implement a larger scale online course quality initiative. So again, for your experienced faculty and your staff, you want to make sure that they have access to the professional development that they need in order to conduct the activities that you envision. The other example that I have posted here is a documentation of a review process that we conducted. And so you can take a look at this and see if there are some things that you might want to adopt or adapt as part of your own activity. It's just there as an example, so that you can see the process. An example of the process. One of the processes that we used historically for this particular part of this implementation plan. And so then, this is documenting the actual process. This is what's going to happen as part of this part of the plan. Reviews are going to happen. There's going to be some feedback, recommendations, and changes. You're going to make some decisions about priorities. You're going to create an action plan. You're going to conduct a learning review after the changed course has been implemented with all the new changes. And then you're going to update the action plan to determine what you're going to work on the next time. So the model is that course quality and review processes are iterative. It's a continuous improvement process. It's not one and done. It's not you do the review and then the course is done forever. It's kind of like you do a review, you pick some things to improve, you improve those things, you deliver it, and then you check to see how it went, and then you refine your action plan for the next time you're going to teach it. You then want to think about in your plan, how often are you going to repeat the process? And, do you have a series of initiatives that you want to implement targeting different focuses? Or is this your plan for general quality and you're going to repeat this process with all your online courses, let's say every 3 years, right? So you want to document how that's going to work. What are you going to do in order to sustain continuous improvement and updating of review and refreshes of your courses? Are there ways that you can leverage the process that you are undertaking in different ways to achieve different goals? So, for example, how I just have all of these examples listed here, and I'm not going to read them out to you, but you want to think about how you can leverage the process to benefit you, the institution, the program, the faculty. What are things that you can do and that you are doing that you can then extend in some way to assist you achieve some broader goals? So let's talk about impact and reporting. you need to think about what you're going to measure and how and why and how you're going to report it. So you might want to consider coordinating with your institutional research or your evaluation and assessment folks to make sure that you're coordinating efforts and that they may have mm, mechanisms to assist you and to give you some guidance. And there may be already existing things that might need to be tweaked, or that you could collaborate on customizing. So you just want to make sure that you're including them as one of your stakeholders, so that you get the benefit of what they have to offer you. And then you want to think about who you're reporting to and how. Are there annual reports, or could this be part of your strategic planning process? Does it need to be? Uh, uh, what kind of budgeting activities are taking place that you might want to have included, and have a seat, let's say, at the table in order to make sure that your plan is resourced appropriately? Or are you going through any accreditation type activities into which you could weave this as part of that? So instead of doing extra work or bolting it on, leveraging it so that you are achieving, multiple objectives with the same activities and the same groups, perhaps, will make you more efficient, and working smarter, not harder, right? Not duplicating efforts. Then you want to think about the whole process that you're implementing and think about continuous improvement for that as well. Like, as you go along, this might be a phased activity, it might be a multi-year activity. You want to make sure to plan for continuous improvement of the plan itself. So what's working well in your plan? What could be improved? How will you make those improvements? What's the process by which you change things? If something changes and you need to change the plan, what's the mechanism by which you will, you know, cyclically, regularly check to make sure that things are on target, that whatever the dates are that you've proposed or the dependencies are that you have identified, that those are all happening, as planned. And if they're not, then something needs to be adjusted in the plan. So what is the plan for making those determinations and then those changes? So then how are you going to celebrate your successes? You don't want to forget that success is an important piece of your implementation plan. When you have successes, you want to recognize your faculty, their work, the staff, the reviewers. What are the mechanisms that you're going to use in order to celebrate those successes? And so here I've listed a bunch of examples that we have developed over years. We've been, here at SUNY, been doing this for a very long time. It wouldn't be expected if you're just starting out with something like this that you would have these things in place. And in fact, you probably wouldn't have all of them in place, or not all of them at the same time. But these are things that you can look at and see if there's something in there that you could adapt and leverage in some way that might help you, along your path, wherever it is that you happen to be. So one of the things that we do is we have some Oscar badges that include Oscar certifications as well as trainings. And so here you can look and see what the different trainings are that we have and what the different certifications are that we've offered. And each one of these, if you click on them, they have details about what the earning criteria is and a description of it, so that you can see how this ecosystem around Oscar, how this badging ecosystem was constructed. We also have an effective practices award program, and this is something that you could potentially leverage for this initiative. And it it is a gift that has many, many benefits. I think recognizing effective practices in your program, in your department, in your at your institution. So you can take a look at how we've designed ours and see if there's something there that you might want to adapt at some point for recognizing effective practices at your institution. This is our mentoring program. So similar to our online course reviewer network, we have volunteers in our system, across our system, who have raised their hands, volunteered to be mentors to other faculty. And let me see if I can show you one of them. This is Stephanie from one of our universities, University at Albany, and she has her contact info there. She has her college website, her discipline, as well as some of her, a little bit of a bio from her. And she was an online teaching ambassador. That's one of her recognitions. So you can see, we have them listed in, I believe it's by discipline. So you see faculty listed by discipline. And if someone's looking for a mentor for another instructor, they can come here and mine this list of volunteers for mentors, for either instructional designers or for faculty. We have some fellow chats that we do. So when someone is doing something super cool, we want to share that with everyone in the system. And so we invite folks to submit a fellow, we call them fellow chats. And it's a little lunchtime webinar similar to this, a little bit shorter, like half an hour. And they come and they share some best practice that they have, some tool that they have used and really like, or some activity that they've done and that we think could be a model for other faculty, other campuses. And so this is a historical listing of some of the presentations that we've had from some of the faculty over the last few years. So you can take a look at how this is designed. We ask people to submit, so you can take a look at the form and see how we collect the information, and then take a look at any one of these presentations that were done. So that's how we share information across institutions here. One of the ways that we share information across institutions. Another way is with our online teaching ambassador program, and with this mechanism where we give an opportunity to anyone to share their enthusiasm for online teaching. And this is the ambassador program is an annual program, and we recognize 2 ambassadors from each of our institutions every year, and they become a class of our ambassadors for that year. And then we ask them specifically to do blog posts or videos or webinars. And then we ask them to look through these ideas for things that they might consider as part of their contribution when they're not nominated as an ambassador. They have a year to do some things to share their enthusiasm, and so they can pick from these varied ideas that we have listed here. So for you, you can take a look at this and see, what you might adapt from this, if it would help you in some way. You might think about, for your quality initiative, maybe you recognize the folks who went through the process, or the folks who were the reviewers of the process, and how you might showcase them in some way through their own words, right? Little videos or blog posts or mini lunch webinars. There's lots and lots of ideas here, so you might want to take a look at that. So in any good implementation plan, you need a budget. And so here's a template for a budget. Just, obviously you would customize this to you, but I wanted to make sure that you are considering staff and the types of staff, depending on what your initiative includes and how much of their time it's going to take, or if it's new staff, how is that being budgeted? What tools are you going to need? Because maybe you are going to incorporate additional tools that are not listed here as part of the initiative. And then what are the different trainings and professional development certifications or association memberships that you want to include in your budget to make sure that that is covered. So this is not exhaustive. This is just to give you some ideas about some things to make sure that you think about them and consider them as you're pulling your budget together. Then, of course, an implementation plan has a signature page, and we'll typically have some appendices, and I've drafted out some placeholders for things like an organizational chart, for things like your course reviewer expectations and agreement. I have that process workflow in the folder for you to take a look at. This is a documentation of the process that we used with our course reviewers when we initially started the whole OSCQR review process. This is a documentation of that process. Just as an example for you to take a look at. And then you want to insert any references that you might have. You want to have a glossary of key terms to make sure that everyone is using a common language to refer to the same things. And then a placeholder for any additional appendices that you might want to incorporate into the mix. And so that's basically the overview of the full implementation plan. I want to again point you to the folder that has everything that I've just showed you in it. And I want to also make sure that you get pointed to the OSCQR website, and in particular, the Get OSCQR page. And here is where you would get access to the self-assessment PDF. If you're going to do an initiative that includes new online faculty doing a self-assessment after they've designed and developed and delivered their course for the first time, their online course for the first time, you might want to have a process where the faculty conduct a self-assessment to identify things that worked well and things that need improvement. So you could use the PDF for that. For some larger scale activities, we have the interactive rubric and we have the interactive dashboard. And so the way to access those are through these links. I want to mention this cool OSCQR informed syllabus template. This is a bonus. This is like a little bonus tool for you. Let me see if I can get it open. This template is a syllabus template that has been OSCQR infused, and it also includes a section on and so this is free for anyone to use. It's an openly licensed tool. It includes a basic needs statement. It also includes regular and substantive interaction. And it's been mapped to OSCQR, so you can see every section here has an OSCQR standard that it's associated with. And so you know, this is something you could use to demonstrate compliance with RSI, for example, if you were ever asked to do that. You could also use it in a self-study to show how you are meeting certain standards. And it also just includes a lot of really cool and important stuff that, you know, online students would like to see in a syllabus. So so there's your bonus for the day. I wanted to point you also to the implementation planning page on the OSCQR site. So under Get OSCQR, it says implementation, and that's a link to the folder that I've showed you already. And here is a playlist of folks from our community talking about how they implemented OSCQR and online course quality review activities on their campus. And then I wanted to point you to the community resources that we have. So OSCQR is openly licensed and free for anyone to use and adapt and do, you know, what they would like to with it. And we collect when we know about them. If people share them with us and agree, we will share some of the things that were community created on this page. And so you can take a look at the stuff that's here, you know, at your leisure. I do want to mention our OSCQR user group and our new online community, networking community. And so I'm hoping that those of you who are here, that you will join our community. And then if you're interested in the community in talking about OSCQR and joining with other folks in the OSCQR user group community, just use the hashtag OSCQR in our networking site, and you can connect with others and ask questions or talk about what you're doing with it. We'd really love to have you join us in our online networking community, especially if you, this site is intended for anyone, even if you're not affiliated with SUNY. If you are affiliated with SUNY, we have a Yammer group that is intended just for SUNY people, and it's a broad group that is around online teaching, and so that would include anyone who's interested in OSCQR or using OSCQR. All right, and so Erin, you'll put the Yammer group in the chat for me, will you?
Yes.
All right, so I'm looking through. I'm done with the presentation, and I want to leave some time for questions. So is there anyone that has a question, or did I miss anything?
I have not seen questions in the chat.
You can unmute yourself and ask, or
yeah.
raise your hand and let me know that you have a question, and I'm happy to answer it. I think we're at time, but I'm happy to hang out here and chat with anyone who wants to, you know, to talk about anything.
Yeah, we are. So if you have to go, that's totally fine. Let me just put the link for the recordings in here, though, so that you'll have that. And you can go to this site and see past recordings, which also include the overview of OSCQR if you want something more in depth on that. And then the recording from today will be up there probably by tomorrow. But yes, if you have questions, feel free to unmute or type in the chat. Thank you.
Doris from Adirondack, I put the links to the folder and to the implementation plan right there in the chat, so you should be able to get it. And Doris also asked about the implementation planning page, and Erin, I think
I put that in there.
That in there for her, right? And it's just under the Get OSCQR link.
Oh, that's good news, Doris.
Oh, I'm glad. That's good. What were you expecting? I'm curious.
I think I was expecting something more like specific to what OSCQR is, but that's okay. I get, you've got, everything's online. You showed me where to find it.
Yep. And we do another session that is about what OSCQR is. This one was implementation planning. So I did want to make sure, I did say at the beginning what this session was not. I don't know if you were there or not at the very beginning, but yeah, I always want to make sure that people know, because we do many of these types, and there are ones that are about OSCQR, another one that we do about regular and substantive interaction. And so, yeah, this one was really about the implementation plan.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what I needed, because I'm having a conversation about this and people are like, oh, we'll just have everyone use OSCQR in the fall. And I'm like, I think we need a little more preparation.
Great.
Anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm glad that worked out. Anyone else have any questions or want to just say hi?